Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I think there's a consensus that is emerging. No serious political and economic analyst has come up with a contrary view. The situation is clear that the new currency, this ZiG, is bound to lose its value, just like the Zimbabwe dollar before it. And the reason for it is very simple. The economic and political conditions that have buffeted the Zimbabwe dollar and made it lose its value, they are still there. To expect that somehow the ZiG will survive is naive, to say the least. And to quote Gideon Gono, the former governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the elephant is still in the room. So here we are. This cartoon I've picked tonight is depicting a bus with the ZANU-PF ruling elite in the bus, looking as cheerful as ever. And with their ZiGs on top. Welcome to you, Benjamin. There are going to be people who are going to profit from this chaos. I think that point cannot be denied. What do you have to say to that?
Thank you for having me on the program, and to our viewers, thank you for joining us. Most definitely. I mean, I've always noticed, I think if I say this, every Zimbabwe out there will concur with me to say, the very day when money starts hitting circulation or going into circulation, you find out that there are banknotes on the street as early as 5 o'clock when banks open, at 8 o'clock. So then you start to wonder, okay, who's going to benefit from this, and who is leading the operation? So you can see the number one chief suspect would be the Reserve Bank, because they're the ones that are going to give out the currency to the banks and etc, right? But if you are going to find the black market has it by 6 o'clock, then definitely you would know who stands to benefit from the whole circus. But then right now there is chaos surrounding the ZiG, as we know that the Reserve Bank governor has issued, that everything must be converted from RTGS to the ZiG, and they have been given 21 days to wind down all operations using the RTGS. But then the funny thing is, the ZiG is not yet in circulation. It's not yet. I don't know whether it's been printed or not. I think it's just an idea that was quickly developed and shared without having done all the necessary arrangements to have a smooth transition. So yeah, it's a mess. It's a big mess, and obviously, in all the commotion, they are the ones that are in that bus. Some of them I can tell. Unfortunately, there's Chabangwe at the back with his stick there, I suppose. But the rest there that are smiling, they know that they are going to benefit from all this. The crooks, the thugs, the corrupt, ministers within the government. They are the ones that are first, and their children, obviously, that are going to be the first to benefit from this whole circus.
Yeah, I think it is important for the listeners to remember how these people benefit from the system. As the Zimbabwe dollar before it, when it started losing its value, you'll find that, of course, the US dollar then becomes scarce, and everybody would want to make sure that at the end of the day, they are holding on to American dollars or a more stable currency like the rand than the local Zimbabwe dollar. So what tends to happen then is the bank are the ones who hold the foreign currency. And in fact, this time it will be slightly better in the sense that at least the American dollar and the ZiG is legal tender right now. You could still pay in American dollars or in ZiG or when they become available. But as the ZiG starts losing its value, you find then the American dollar will become more in demand, and there will be surplus chasing the American dollar because it's more stable. And so what tends to happen then is that the foreign currency is not readily available to the ordinary person. And those in power with influence, they are the ones who will get it. You go to the bank and the bank manager will tell you, oh, we don't have any US dollar or rand. And yet, if you are one of the ruling elite, they will find you some. The advantage with that for the ruling elite is that they get it, and then they are the ones who sell it on the black market. They get the foreign currency at the official exchange rate, and they sell it in the black market at the black market exchange rate. So they end up making an incredible profit. And sometimes the difference could be as much as 100 times the difference. 1:1 officially, and yet on the black market, it's 100 ZiGs to $1. And how anyone can fail to make profit under those conditions is, of course, impossible. That is where they benefit. And you as an individual getting the foreign currency becomes a problem. And when you finally get it, the exchange rate you get, if you take it to the bank, is the official one. And unless you know the system yourself, on the black market, you can never trade it at the same rate that you will buy it at. That's what makes it so difficult. So at the end of the day, the ordinary people are the ones who are going to lose. And I think we are going to have the same situation happening again as the ZiG starts losing its value. I think it is really hard. I mean, you can imagine how difficult it will be, for instance, for the ordinary person in the rural area to cope with the devaluation of the currency.
Yes, I mean, like we said yesterday, both the economic, the political environment are the same, and the ZiG is just coming into the same environment which caused the RTGS to fail, and both the ZiG and the RTGS are basically being backed up by the same amounts, roughly the same amounts if you convert everything into US dollars. And so I don't think, I know it's definitely going to be a failure. But like you said, taking into consideration, people that are in the rural areas, where even news about the conversion rates and everything, they don't really know what is happening. They can sit on money and have it worthless in maybe in 2 days or 3 days time, depending on how how high inflation is, and this is like what was happening with RTGS. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose for the ordinary Zimbabwean, and a win-win-win by higher margins for those that are in government, the ones that are connected within the the banking sector. So for I personally think we stand no chance. We really stand no chance. All things are still the same. Nothing has changed here, and it'll be naive and it'll be foolish of us to actually think that this thing here would actually work. Of course, we may put as much confidence as we want in it, but when you've got a corrupt and a government that you cannot trust, that cannot stick to what they say or to their word, they will still run it down whether you put as much confidence as you want or you can teach as much as you want. Because I mean, now I've seen they've gone on to hyper mode of enrolling church church bishops and church organizations to try and rally behind this ZiG and preach a good word about the ZiG. But no matter whatever you do, as long as the environment is toxic, it just won't work. You are trying to defy economics. It just doesn't work. And for me, it just comes down to the bottom line to say all this year plot of changing the ZiG to RTGS, they could have called it another name. It was just a way to get rid of the zeros and to save face for those that had claimed that this was the most powerful currency in in Southern Africa, a currency that cannot be used beyond its borders, a currency that when you go with it to your own bank in your own country to say, may I have foreign currency, I want to go and buy stuff for maybe for my business, or buy stuff outside, I'm going on holiday, I want to change my ZiG and have maybe rand for me to go on holiday in South Africa, the bank cannot give you it. That just shows that nobody has confidence in it in the first place. So why are you trying to force it down on me? Why, when you don't want to take it in the end? So there's so many questions that are not answered here, and I think it's just foolishness to think that this bus with its ZiG is going anywhere. I don't see it going far. If it goes downhill, I'm sure it hasn't got the brakes. It won't stop until all the zeros or everything within that bag has flown away in value.
Well, for the ordinary person, one of the problems they have is that they do not have the economic power to bargain. Take, for instance, an ordinary person who goes to, say, a shop and says they want to buy medication. If they were to say, for the sake of argument, the price of the medication is $5, the shop owner would say, well, you pay me $5, or you pay me, take for instance, if the exchange rate was 1-to-1 at that point. And the guy says, well, it's 1-to-1 officially. Can I pay you 5 ZiG? And the person will say, no, I don't want 5 ZiG. If you're going to pay me in ZiG, you have to pay me twice the amount, 10. So they are fixing the exchange rate straight away. And the ordinary person has no bargaining power. You will have to accept it. Whereas if it's, for instance, the individual is the one who is selling, and the guy with the money says to him, well, I'll pay you 5 ZiG, take it or leave it. The ordinary person who's desperate to sell whatever they are selling will have to accept 5 ZiG. So either way, you find they're being shortchanged because when they are the ones who are buying something, those with the economic power can dictate either the currency in which they are to be paid or the exchange rate they will accept. And when it's the other way around, they do not have the bargaining power to do the same. So they are being shortchanged either way. And this is what is making it so tragic for the ordinary person. And even to keep up with what is the latest exchange rate, it's impossible for ordinary people who are not doing it on a daily basis. So the only people who are benefiting from all this is the ruling elite and their cronies, the ones who will be the money changers on the street. And they have made huge profits in the past from this chaos that has emerged. And as the ruling elite, they have got the bargaining power where they can, particularly from the Reserve Bank, where they get loans. Last time, the Reserve Bank was dishing out loans to the ruling elite to buy farming equipment. And the loans were issued in foreign currency at the official exchange rate. And the chefs could pay back in local currency at the official exchange rate. So you can see immediately that anybody else, you would never get that loan. And if you get it, you will never get it at that official exchange rate because, no bank can possibly do that. And so in the end, the Reserve Bank actually ended up with huge debts, which were never repaid. And they were passed on to government so that the taxpayer had to pay the burden. And this is, I think, what is going to happen again with this ZiG. The whole thing is really, really depressing. And I think it is a pity that the people of Zimbabwe have been down this route and are being taken the same route again. I think that, to me, is what is so depressing in this affair.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right there. And in economics, usually they say, you always bear the cost down to the consumer, to the end user. That's the unfortunate law that is there. That those that are at the bottom of the food chain, they will always be the one to carry, the ones that are already enjoying, the luxuries of office or the trappings of office. So for me, I don't see anything positive about this whole ZiG. I just think it is just a way for them to save face and to get rid of the zeros that were almost going out of control. And and now it has come down to changing the whole system of doing business, and inconveniences. And within the commotion, obviously there are others that are already preying on the weak, and by the time it comes out on the 30th, others would have made a killing out of the whole thing, and others will still make a killing because they would be having opportunities, like you said, to walk into the bank and a minister has said he wants such an amount and he will pay back, and most of the time they do not pay back. And for that, you find out that the country obviously goes into debt, and once we are in debt, we are the ones that are stuck with these useless pieces of paper. And once the paper that you print on and you say it's money and it does not get approval from people, or does not get the people's confidence, does not win the people's confidence, it's doomed. And like I was saying, ZANU-PF has gone into hyperdrive to try and win the people's confidence using churches and so forth. But I think it's a losing battle because people, they've been down this road not once but on numerous occasions, and I would believe a lot of people are wiser. It's only that they always come up with different ways of how to cheat the system and to cheat you and me out of our own hard-earned monies. But we have to be more clever and be vigilant going forward. That's what I would say in conclusion.
Well, my closing remark will be to say to the people of Zimbabwe, this situation is one of our own making. ZANU-PF and Emerson Mnangagwa did not win free, fair, and credible elections last year. They rigged those elections. They imposed themselves on the nation. And this is the consequence of that rigged election. We are now stuck with a regime that is literally destroying the economy and make us, the ordinary people, suffer. The suffering is not going to end until we do something about our skewed political system. As long as ZANU-PF is able to rig the elections and stay in power, this chaotic condition will remain. The elephant in the room will remain. The only way to get rid of the elephant in the room is to demand democratic changes so that we got free, fair, and credible elections. It is inexcusable that 44 years after independence, we are still failing to achieve that goal. The last 23 years, the people of Zimbabwe have elected the opposition with the primary purpose of that they would implement the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. That goal has not been accomplished. And it is for the people themselves to realize that the opposition have failed to carry out that task. That cannot be overemphasized. The opposition's primary purpose is to implement the democratic reforms to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. And after 23 years, not even a token reform implemented, we cannot pretend that the opposition is competent. They are not. And as long as the opposition continue participating in flawed elections, giving ZANU-PF legitimacy, this is what we are going to continue to have. So, what is the solution? Well, the solution is very simple. We really have to wake up to the reality that the opposition is not up to the task. And we must now start demanding an opposition that is committed to implementing the democratic reforms and that will end up stopping ZANU-PF rigging the elections. And to be easily conned by the opposition into participating in flawed elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and thus perpetuating the dictatorship is a weakness on our part, the electorate. We are being naive, we are being gullible, we are easily conned into believing something is working when it's not working. It is not rocket science. You want free, fair, and credible election, you've got to get an opposition that is competent to ensure that the reforms are implemented. If the opposition had not participated last year's elections, I believe that SADC would have never granted ZANU-PF political legitimacy. But if the opposition participated and the people themselves participated in their millions, What did you expect SADC to do? The wake-up call is to the ordinary people of Zimbabwe. ZiG, this new currency, is not going to be any different from what we've seen before. And it's going to end up with destroying the economy, just as the collapse of the Zimbabwe dollar did before. How long are we going to tolerate this situation? With that, thank you very much for listening, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.